When I walked in the door, my wife was excited. She ran up to me and gave me a big kiss in greeting, then turned to go to the kitchen and finish cooking dinner. "I made your favorite dinner tonight. I have some big news and I thought we could celebrate." "That's great, honey," I answered. "I also have some important news. Maybe we can have a double celebration." It was Friday evening and the work week was over. While she finished in the kitchen, I went into the bedroom to take a shower and change into casual clothes. Since I didn't have to work tomorrow, I was looking forward to a long night of lovemaking with my wife. I had some important news that I'm sure will make her very excited. I was giddy with anticipation of hearing her news and then telling her mine. I'm Larry Dawes. My wife's name is Sheila. We have been married for 7 years and we are both 30 years old. I'm 6'2", weigh 210 pounds, give or take a pound or two, depending on the day, and am in pretty good shape. Although I am not a heartthrob, I have been told more than once that I look above average. I've also been told that I'm a little above average in size, if you know what I'm getting at. Sheila is 5 feet 6 inches tall and weighs about 110 pounds. She is also in very good shape. We both work out in the gym. She has long blonde hair, brown eyes, gorgeous breasts, and an amazing ass. I was pretty sure I knew what her news was. We recently started trying to grow our family. She stopped taking birth control pills a few months ago, and we've been having sex like rabbits ever since. Don't get me wrong, we weren't celibate before this. We averaged about 3 times a week after our first year of marriage. Before this, it happened almost every night. Since she stopped taking the pills, we started having sex more often again. The only times it was delayed were the days when I had to leave town. I didn't travel much for work. I was usually in my office by 7:80 a.m. and left work at 5 p.m. I'm a mechanical engineer. My schedule only changes when I need to go to a conference or seminar. This happens about once a quarter. A couple of months ago, I was promoted to engineering manager, so I had 5 junior engineers, 3 technicians, and a couple of secretaries reporting to me. I also had my own personal secretary. Sheila works as a paralegal in a small law firm in the city. She was one of 3 paralegals in an office of 5 attorneys. Her schedule is almost as regular as mine. Her only change is when problems arise from time to time, and she needs to work a little later in the evening. After showering and changing, I made it to the kitchen just as Sheila was setting the table. She did her best tonight. I suspected that she had taken the afternoon off to prepare for tonight. She made chicken scallops, a wonderful Caesar salad, and garlic bread. She even made tiramisu for dessert. She uncorked a couple of bottles of really good Merlot. Her news was obviously something impressive. I was really looking forward to our conversation today. I also noticed that she dressed up for the occasion. She was wearing one of the shortest, sexy dresses with a plunging neckline, cleavage and exposed legs. She also seemed to be looking forward to a wild and passionate night. After dinner and dessert, I helped clear the table and tidy up the kitchen. We filled our glasses with wine and retired to the living room to tell each other the good news. We sat on the couch, sipped wine, and, as usual, discussed who would go first. She was so happy that I wondered how she could hold it in for so long. Honestly, I expected it to just pop out spontaneously. "We did it, honey. I am pregnant. We're having a baby," she practically screamed. "It's amazing." Seeing my joy at this news, she threw herself into my arms and kissed me passionately. We kissed deeply and hugged each other, allowing joy to overwhelm us. Finally, she pulled away and asked what news I had. I was almost as excited about my news as she was about hers. With a wide smile and an excited look, I told her the good news. My secretary, Josette, is also pregnant. Since she is not married and does not want to raise a child alone, we decided that she would simply give her child to us to raise. It will be like they are twins. Since you and Josette will be giving birth around the same time, they will actually be twins in every way, except on the mother's side. Since I'm the father, this won't be a custody issue, especially since she's more than willing to sign a consent form for my custody. All she wants is to be the child's favorite aunt. We'll probably have to explain this to him or her when he or she is old enough to understand and accept it, but that shouldn't be a problem. I happily explained this to my wife. Oddly enough, I noticed a rather serious lack of happiness on my wife's face at this news. In fact, she seemed angry. She just informed me that our family will be growing, and I just informed her that this increase will double. I believed that her happiness would also be doubled by my news. Instead, it seemed as if the happiness had not only completely evaporated, but had completely turned into extreme hostility. I was truly amazed. The look of extreme stress on her face made me pause to tell the rest of my news. Then I decided that she should know, and it would probably turn her from upset back to happy. Her first ultrasound also showed that she was having twins. While it's too early to determine the gender, there's a pretty good chance that at least one of them is a girl. Just think, you could have the little girl you've always dreamed of, and I could have the little boy. Whoever you give birth to will be a bonus. We will immediately have the big family you have always dreamed of. I didn't understand what was happening here. Instead of being happy about the news, she only seemed to get angrier. It didn't take long for the explosion to happen. Compared to this, Hiroshima looked like a failed firecracker. You fucking bastard! You cheated on me with his secretary in his office? What idiotic thoughts in your head? Do you really think that I am at all? I'll think about it to bring up illegitimate your children mistresses? Are you out of your mind? Everything went downhill. For the next half hour, she shouted every insult that had ever existed at me. I think she even managed to create a few new ones. It wasn't even close to how I had imagined it. I was already beginning to think that my night of passionate lovemaking would not happen. And yet this did not stop me. Honey, how about we go to the bedroom and celebrate our shared good news? I'm sure that after a night of passionate lovemaking, we will have a much better understanding of what our life will be like with 3 new children added to our loving family. I was surprised that she not only vehemently rejected me, but had the audacity to actually try to kick me out of my own bed. Well, if she didn't want to sleep with me, she could have found another bed to sleep in. Finally, in a fit of rage, she grabbed the pillows and rushed to the spare bedroom. To be honest, I was confused by her attitude. Well, since I felt that I had done nothing wrong, I rolled over and slept peacefully through the night. The next morning, I tried unsuccessfully to lure my wife into our bed to make love. She was irrationally angry at me. I just couldn't understand her problem. Seeing that she was just being unreasonable, I decided to take advantage of the nice day and go play golf. It was a phenomenal day. I managed to hook up with a threesome. We had a great time. 3 hours after the round ended, I left their house. I was surprised when I got home that my garage door opener wasn't working. It was strange. I turned off the engine and walked to the front door. Strangely, I saw several suitcases stacked on the front porch. Not knowing what they were, I ignored them. When I grabbed the doorknob, I found that the front door was locked. However, this was not too surprising. What was strange was that my key didn't fit the locks. Taking a closer look at the locks, I noticed that they seemed completely new. Strangely, Sheila never mentioned that she needed new locks on her doors. Anyway, I was hot and tired and needed to get into the house, take a shower, and change clothes. Being the practical person I am, I simply took the saw out of the car and cut the door around the door handle and deadbolt. Once the doorknob and deadbolt were separated from the rest of the door swung freely. I made a mental note to go to Lowe's and buy a new front door. When I entered the house, Sheila began another tirade, like I was moving and my clothes were packed in suitcases outside. Hearing this, I went out and carried my suitcases back to my bedroom. When I opened the suitcases, I actually saw that they contained all my clothes. It took me a few minutes to replace everything in the right drawers and cabinets. While she continued to rant, I undressed and turned on the shower. I invited Sheila to join me in the shower, but she firmly rejected my offer. She apparently had some psychological issues that she may need to address. I may try to raise this issue later this evening and offer some consultation. After a nice shower, I went to the bedroom to change clothes. To my surprise, I found Sheila in the process of packing all her clothes into her recently emptied suitcases. To a simple question, she exclaimed that since I refused to move, she would do it. While I was in the shower, she apparently called her sister and made arrangements to stay with her. My suggestion that pregnancy had messed up her hormones and made her react strangely was met with extreme anger. I had no doubt that this was the real reason for her strange behavior. I was confident that once she had the baby and once my secretary's twins were home, she would be a great mother to all 3 children. To be honest, I was confused by her reaction. An hour later, she left. A couple of days later, I moved Josette into my home. She would need some support during her pregnancy, and since Sheila was no longer here, it seemed like the right thing to do. After all, the twins were mine. Sheila should have had no problem understanding her husband's lack of sex. I even had Keisha a few times. It was usually one-on-one, but sometimes there was a threesome with Josette and Keisha. I was served with divorce papers a week after Sheila left. She asked for a house, 18 years of child support, 90% of our savings and investments, and $2,500 a month in child support. In short, she fully complied with our prenuptial agreement, its adultery clause. We introduced this as a fairly severe punishment for treason. Yes, I knew about it. 3 months later, we had our first meeting with the lawyers. We were in her lawyer's office discussing the problems of our divorce. Our prenup was designed to make infidelity painful, very painful. The fact that I impregnated my secretary and I wasn't particularly subtle about having sex with Keisha also gave her the perfect weapon. There was only one small problem. Are you really sure you want to go down this path, Sheila? You cheated on me. Your secretary got pregnant from you, and you had the nerve to think that I would want to raise her children. Okay, Sheila. Right here, right now, I'm offering a one-time offer. We call off the divorce, get back together, and raise all 3 children as our own. We forget about the past and return to each other again. Our 3 children will be ours alone. Yes, Josette will become the twins' favorite aunt. But that's where it all ends. You will be a loving mother to all 3, and I will be a loving father. We might even have more children. It's your choice, yes or no. I made my offer. Fuck you. I will absolutely not raise any of your illegitimate children. I looked at my lawyer and nodded my head. She answered my nod. Unfortunately, my wife did not hire the meanest, most cruel, hungry, and vicious shark on the planet. Luckily, I did it. My lawyer opened her briefcase with a smile that reminded me of a barracuda about to go on a rampage. Since your client refused my client's generous offer, here is our new offer, she said, moving papers across the table. It took Sheila and her lawyer several minutes to read and understand the document. When Sheila's expression changed from arrogance to panic, I swear Lilith, my lawyer, licked her lips and sucked in her saliva. Yes, she was truly evil. Sheila's lawyer turned to face her. The expression was one of complete panic. DNA analysis? Sheila was bored. Certainly. Another nod from Lilith, and she took out the audio recorder. Placing it on the table, she pressed the button. So, how do you make sure it's my child and not your husband's? The voice on the recording belonged to Jason West, one of the lawyers at the firm where Sheila worked. No problem, Sheila answered. I always use my diaphragm when I have sex with him. Besides, you're enough like my husband that he'll never know he's raising your child. Fine. Let him raise my child correctly. I'm not going to pay for or deal with children. I really like the idea of having a child that I can eventually pass my inheritance on to. But that would have to be after he gets older. When the child turns 18, we will be able to reveal who the real father is. This way, I don't have to pay a penny to grow. Trust me, Larry will never know until we tell him 18 years later. Then it will be too late. By then, Larry and I will have several more children together, and he won't be able to do anything about it without being completely screwed up. So, are you sure that your husband won't find out about us? We had an affair for the last 3 years, and he had no idea. You are so similar to him that any of our children will look close enough, and he will never suspect that it is not his. Everything will be okay. The look on Sheila's face when the recording was played was priceless. Lilith then issued a demand for DNA testing of her fetus. She also served a petition for alimony from Jason West. I asked for $2,000 a month. He was a fairly successful lawyer. So, since your client rejected the last offer, here is a new offer. This will, of course, require a subsequent agreement signed by both parties. The divorce will stop, and the couple will remain married until the last child graduates from high school. It's minimum. If they jointly decide to stay married, they will be free to do so. The subsequent agreement will include the terms from the prenuptial agreement, but with some modifications. First, the marriage becomes an open marriage in which my client can have sex with other women if he tells his wife about it before the date begins. The wife is also allowed to have sex with other partners under the same conditions. I watched as Sheila's face turned completely white. She was absolutely shocked that her affair was discovered. Lilith turned on her shark smile and continued, "If your client rejects this proposal, we are fully prepared to enforce the marriage contract on our part." Her affair began 3 years before my client's affair. In fact, he only entered into his affair after he had fully documented his wife's infidelity and her desire to have a child with another man. If she wants to continue the divorce process, she must be prepared to find herself homeless, penniless, and all her friends and family are provided graphic videos of her having sex with another man. We are fully prepared to commit complete destruction. She looked at me and nodded for me to continue. "Sheila, you wanted me to raise another man's child. While the child inside you is an innocent victim of your betrayal of me, I will not be held financially responsible for it. What I will be willing to do is to accept the child into our home as a stepson, provided that his father becomes financially responsible. He will pay a monthly allowance for his child, health insurance, medical bills, and education. Although I seriously doubt he would want to visit the child, it would be available to him. He will also pay for his child's college education. Otherwise, I will father the child as if he were my own. This is the price this bastard has to pay for his actions." He said he didn't want to take responsibility for the child, but that's what he would get. "Your price for betrayal will be raising my children as your own. They will be your children in every way except biologically. The only people who will know that they are not biologically yours are the people in this room and Josette. Did you think it would be fun for me to raise another man's child? Well, now you can laugh while raising another woman's children. You will also be glad to see Josette in our house when she wants to visit the children. This is your repentance. Do you dare try to divorce me over sex with another woman while you were having a years-long affair with another man? How hypocritical of you. My affair began only after I learned about your betrayal. I heard you were planning to have another man's baby. Yes. Josette had twins. Audrey was born a minute before Andy. Lenny, Sheila's son, had arrived 3 days earlier. There were quite a few surprised faces when we introduced the triplets to all our friends and family. In the end, everyone finally accepted it. There were some interesting comments about where Audrey and Andy's red hair came from. Damn recessive genes. They were smart kids. They understood. Did we really need to tell them? Maybe, maybe not. There are valid arguments on both sides. We decided they should know and told them. We also told Lenny that I was not his biological father. This was a little different. He had never met this asshole. This asshole tried to fight a paternity claim, but DNA is DNA. He tried not to pay, but judges get a little annoyed when you try to ignore their decisions. Judges also have what are called sheriff's deputies, who can visit people in their homes and offices. Oh, all this nonsense about open marriage? I patted Keisha a couple more times, and Josette and I continued our affair for about a year before she met Dan. As for Sheila, I'm pretty sure she never indulged her desires. However, I kept a close eye on her. After Josette and I ended our affair, I didn't do it again. I figured Sheila had learned her lesson, but I would start all over again if I discovered she was having another affair. As far as I could tell, she didn't, and I watched pretty closely. She also started trying to wear me down to death to make sure I wouldn't need anyone else but her. This worked both ways, too. Jason West disappeared shortly after Larry's 18th birthday, after he opened a college fund account for Lenny. We offered to visit him, but Jason didn't want to. There were rumors that he had moved to the East Coast. According to more reliable rumors, he was now about 5 miles east of the coast. Of course, this rumor was only known to a few select people. Yes, I was a patient person when it came to payback. He couldn't miss those child support and college fund payments. What about Sheila and me? What can I say? It's been 19 years since our little problem. I did my due diligence and found nothing. She has truly turned into a good wife and mother. I'm thinking about retiring early after the kids leave home. Some will say I'm a weakling for taking her back. Yes, I could burn it down, but what would that do for me? Who knows, maybe we will Josette could be together. That's a moot point. I had no problems raising another man's child. Of course, I was his father, but I look at it differently. Jason paid for his upbringing. I took the opportunity to make sure the child was raised properly and didn't become another asshole. I also forced my wife to raise another woman's children. It was a constant reminder to her that I slept with another woman and she got pregnant. She also knew that while her lover had to pay for his child, she was paying for Josette's children. My time with Sheila also ensured that our 3 children grew up in a loving home with both parents. This is much more important than what everyone else thinks about me. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.